anytime a player elects to return to school rather than turning pro or turns down a contract extension and they want to play it out and hit the market, I'm going to bring up guys like Jonathan Brooks.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Power Rankings Tuesday, presented, of course, by DraftKings. I'm Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, 5 teams, 7 years. Most of you know that. Love getting a chance to do all of these different shows for you and broadcast these games. I've got the Patriots at the Cardinals Sunday for CBS. Really looking forward to that one. And I love doing a Power Rankings Tuesday because I love getting a chance to make sure I talk about every one of your teams and where they stack up right now in the hierarchy of the NFL, where I would place them right now. Hopefully a bunch of you got a chance to enjoy the College Draft Podcast. If you ever want to hear me talking college football or betting on college football or top college prospects, that is the show. We put that on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast feed this week so that more of you guys would give it a chance, especially with the college football playoff bracket being announced. Get the chance to hear what Emery and I had to say about the conference championship games as well as the college football playoff bracket. New week means new winners. Remember, I'm looking for those Spotify Wrapped. Just tag at Ross Tucker Pod. That is awesome. For those of you that show how much you listen to the show, it means a lot. Of course, the sponsor confirmation email winner could be Future Fans or West Shore or Game Time or whatever. YouTube shout out, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. All you got to do is make a comment. It is Big Show time, which is presented by Labatt Blue Light. Anytime I'm breaking down a game like last night's game, I'm drinking some Labatt Blue Lights, usually with friends and family, living life to the power of we. Always enjoy responsibly. It's delicious beer made by Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York.
The Big Show.
All right, Ross. Last night, Jamar Chase, he capped off a monster game with a 40-yard touchdown to beat the Cowboys 27-20.
Wow. Kind of a wild game, really. I mean, first of all, Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase. That is low-key. I don't know if it's low-key. One of the best quarterback-receiver combos we've ever seen. I mean, there are so many absolutely absurd, ridiculous statistics for Jamar Chase already, and it's comical that Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson were on the same college football team. Absolutely comical. No wonder they won the national championship. I mean, and Joe Burrow was their quarterback. Everybody loved Ed Orgeron for that year. If they didn't win the national championship, that would have been a huge red flag. I mean, you're talking about like arguably the two best receivers in the NFL. Anyway, it is crazy, number one, how much Joe Burrow targets Chase. And then number two, how much it works, how productive it is, no matter how much the defense knows it's coming or prepares for it to coming. Just incredible, unstoppable. I thought Cooper Rush for the Cowboys, I thought he was okay. Kind of like what you'd expect from Cooper Rush, except for the red zone interception. I think that was second quarter maybe. That was devastating. Absolutely devastating. Rico Dowdell, back-to-back nice games for the Cowboys. Even without Zach Martin, they're getting that running game going. Rico Dowdell is the reason. They're feeding him, and he's clearly their best back. I don't know why they ever give the ball to Zeke Elliott, to be honest with you. But the Cowboys, two things jump out to me from the game. Number one, the Cowboys finding a crazy way to lose that game. I mean, they're getting the ball back. I can't remember if it was like a minute left or 2 minutes left. They're getting the ball back in a tie game. They're going to have pretty good field position. But no, They blocked the punt. They're going to have great field position. And Amani Oruwariye, you're supposed to get away from the ball in that situation. I don't know if Oruwariye did not know that or not, or didn't want to lose more yardage because the Bengals were getting a pretty nice bounce out of it. He tried to field the ball, was not able to field it cleanly, ends up being a, Leon Lett type of situation. Bengals get the football and almost immediately throw the ball to Chase for a way too easy 40-something yard touchdown. That is rough. That's rough. Especially if you know anybody who on the Even Money Betting Podcast had the Cowboys plus 5.5 on the Even Money Betting Podcast, and it looked like there was almost no way that would lose. And yet, Cowboys found a way to lose. And really, maybe the almost as important, it sounds like it's a bad injury for DeMarvion Overshown, who has been outrageously good this year for the Cowboys. He's incredibly talented. I love watching him play. And he suffered what Mike McCarthy said is a serious injury, which is a major, major bummer for that young man. Do me a favor, before you even consider getting any child in your life, any other gift, consider getting them an incredible box from Future Fans Football. I'm a huge fan of trying to grow the sport of football, trying to create new fans. And if you've ever tried to teach a youngster about football, it's not that easy. These guys have fixed that. It's a storybook-led activity box that they love. I've done it with my daughters. I've gotten so many text messages now, even a couple DMs and emails from you guys that have bought it for your kids or your grandkids, and you said they loved it. I love hearing that. It's only $49.99. Go to futurefans.com/Ross to get 10% off. That's futurefans.com/Ross. Give them the gift of football fandom. It is the holiday season, which means it's time to hang out with family and friends, drink Smirnoff, the world's #1 vodka and an official vodka partner of the NFL. So many opportunities this year to make football games even more delicious as you watch them. We already had Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Now we've got Christmas, these Saturday games coming up. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff #21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please do not share with anyone under legal drinking age. Smirnoff, we do game days.
It's time for the all-important Power Rankings. The worst team in the history of the NFL is...
So we're going to kick off our power rankings, 32nd being the New York Giants.
I guess they did some positive things. It was a close game, and they had a chance to tie it late. I don't know that I saw enough, though, to move them out of the 32nd position. They had to rally to even be in that position late at home against the Saints team that's not great and very beat up.
31st is the Las Vegas Raiders.
The Raiders. So it sounds like now, actually, Jack, that Aiden O'Connell, that his injury is not that bad and that he might even be able to play this week. They went from air casting it and he's done to now it's only a bone bruise and he's pushing to play this week. So I think he's realizing, man, these might be my last 4 games to start and show I should be a starter or at least have a better chance to be a backup somewhere next year. We'll see what the Raiders end up doing there with O'Connell versus Desmond Ridder.
30th is the Tennessee Titans.
Had to drop them multiple spots. Had to drop them below the Jaguars. You're coming off getting absolutely smashed by the Commanders, and then you follow that up by playing that poorly against the Jaguars at home. That was stunning to me. Very, very surprising that the Titans laid that much of an egg against Mac Jones and the Jaguars in that game.
29 is the aforementioned Jacksonville Jaguars.
Well, they're not good, obviously. I think we all know that. But at least for this week, they were better than the Titans. And the fact they did it at Tennessee, that makes me put the Jaguars ahead of the Titans. Because it wasn't like that was a fluke. I mean, that game really could have gone either way. And it was in Tennessee. So makes me put the Jags one spot ahead of the Titans. I don't know that makes it all that great.
28th, New York Jets.
Feels like they should be better than that. Feels like they are better than that. But you are what your record says you are. And even though they did a lot of positive things, and I thought it was a great sign the way that Aaron Rodgers played, and getting the ball to Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams still ultimately wasn't enough. Their defense has really, really let them down this year a number of times. It's surprising because they've been so good the last couple of years with Salah.
27th is the Chicago Bears.
That was a pitiful performance by the Bears. I guess they were a little bit better in the second half of that game, but not much. I mean, that was really, really bad by Chicago. I mean, all the people posting on social media when the Niners had like 340 yards or whatever and the Bears had 2 or 4 at halftime, you just never see that in an NFL game.
26 is the New England Patriots.
Looking forward to seeing the Patriots on Sunday. Very much so. I'm impressed by Drake May, this rookie quarterback. There were a lot of people that had a healthy amount of skepticism, I would say, around him when he got drafted 3rd overall, had the tools at North Carolina, but the inconsistency. I'm really looking forward to watching him and talking with him because I'm thoroughly impressed with what I've seen from him. Just like a great feel. He not only has the tools, but he just looks like a guy that knows what he's doing. Looking forward to meeting him and seeing him up close and personal on Sunday.
25th is the Cleveland Browns. What are you thinking about the Browns there at 25?
Yeah, the Browns, they're not a bad team. I mean, I think they're a solid is not the right word. They can be a competitive bunch, and their kicker, Dustin Hopkins, has hurt them quite a bit in that regard. In terms of being competitive, he's taken them away from having chances to make them one-score games or take leads throughout. That's something they'll probably work on in the offseason or at least bring in competition. It's a lost season for the Browns. Right now, it's kind of all about Jameis and him showing what he is or isn't or might or could be for next year.
24th is the Atlanta Falcons.
And falling fast. Very, very fast. Very, very surprising. I thought they were in position to kind of walk away with this division, and has not happened. At this point, not going to happen. At this point, they need to find a way to see what they have, moving forward and see if they can get back in this thing. It's not over. They have the head-to-head wins over the Bucs, but now they kind of need help to get back to where they were.
23 is the Dallas Cowboys.
Rough loss for the Cowboys. I mean, they were effectively out of it anyway, but now they're really out of it, right? Huge difference between 5-8 and 6-7. Plus, they'd won 2 in a row. You win a 3rd in a row, and then you win one at home, and you're kind of feeling better about yourself. Unfortunately, that is not the case for the Cowboys.
22nd is the team they played, the Bengals.
So the Bengals, I guess I'll give credit to the Bengals defense in the sense that they only gave up 20 points, which is better than they've been most of the year. They obviously still have some O-line issues. Micah Parsons was putting that rookie right tackle, Amarius Mims, in a blender all night. Odigizua was getting back there. So Bengals have defensive issues, O-line issues, which is not a place you want to be in the NFL.
21st is the New Orleans Saints.
Oh, when the Saints come marching in. Oh, when the Saints come marching in. Okay, so it sounds like Derek Carr has a fractured left wrist. They're not going to put him on IR. So it sounds like he might be able to play at some point. It's interesting because both Derek Carr and Aiden O'Connell, I think a lot of people thought those injuries would be season ending. It doesn't sound like either one of those guys is going to go on IR.
20th is the Carolina Panthers.
Panthers got some bad news as it relates to Jonathan Brooks re-tearing his ACL. You know what? I'm going to make that, Jack, I didn't even tell you this. I'm going to make that my Labatt take of the week. Presented by Labatt Blue Light, the pristine Canadian Pilsner. Enjoy your beers together so you can live life to the power of we. Always enjoy responsibly. Beer, Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York. Anytime a player elects to return to school rather than turning pro or turns down a contract extension and they want to play it out and hit the market, I'm going to bring up guys like Jonathan Brooks. Because there's a lot of people out there that will say, oh, it's okay. What are the chances that you get injured? And even if you get injured, it's not that big a deal. Even a torn ACL doesn't really affect your value that much anymore. That's fair to say, but what if you're the Jonathan Brooks? What if that ends up happening to you? So if you're the type of guy that can get a nice draft choice, if you leave school early and lock in that contract, or your team is giving you a big contract extension offer, guys like Jonathan Brooks are why I always tell guys to strongly consider taking that because the injury risk is omnipresent.
19th is the Indianapolis Colts.
Colts had a bye, so not much to say there other than they're still in this thing coming down the stretch.
18th is the Arizona Cardinals.
So kind of a bummer because I've known for a couple weeks that I was going to do their game this week, and they've lost both those games. You know, they lost the game against the Vikings where they were clearly the better team and played better and then kind of blew that game. And then the Seahawks took it to them. I watched every snap of that game. The Seahawks just took it to them. Seahawks were better up front, both sides of the ball. So kudos to Seattle. And for Arizona, it's very much an uphill battle now because Seattle has the tiebreaker. But they're 6-7. They got to beat the Patriots, get to 7-7, and then let it play out. I still think if you get to 10-7, you're going to the playoffs.
17th, San Francisco 49ers.
And I think that they moved up more than any other team this week. So they're the West Shore upgrade of the year. Right now, West Shore, you can upgrade your house, whether it's your bathroom, your shower, your doors. I've done the doors. I've done the shower. I can't emphasize this enough. They're giving you 25% off the entire project right now. Payments as low as $99 a month. Or you can get interest-free, no payments, no interest until 2026. Strongly consider for the holidays upgrading your doors or upgrading your bathroom or shower. The Niners deserve it. You know, I dropped them probably further than they deserve to be dropped based on how they had performed the last couple of weeks. But that looked a lot more like the Niners that we were expecting to see most of this season. And they did it without a bunch of their guys still. Bosa, Trent Williams, Jordan Mason, McCaffrey. But they were still able to absolutely tear up the Bears. And they are not out of this thing yet.
16th is the Los Angeles Rams.
Rams, I say it every week when it comes to them. They have a puncher's chance because of Matthew Stafford and their offense. And so they're right there. The NFC West is still kind of jumbled. I know the Seahawks are on top, but I think the Seahawks still have to play the Niners again, still have to play the Rams again. They don't play the Cardinals again, but they play the other two again. By the way, the Cardinals went from like first place to last place in 2 weeks. That's wild and hard to do. But the Rams, they're going to get their chance. They're going to get their chance. And the Niners, too, although the Niners are 2 games back.
15th is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
First place in the NFC South, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not really playing their best ball right now, but for the second year in a row, maybe even more than that, maybe the third year in a row, fourth year in a row, that still might be enough in the NFC South because they won it. Even Brady's last year, they won it. So they keep winning that division, even though they're not really that much above 500 a lot of these years.
14th is the Miami Dolphins.
Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins stayed alive. They could not afford to lose that game to the Jets, and they didn't. They found a way. And so now, look, they're with the Colts. They're 6-7. So both of those teams are not out of it yet, right? I still believe with 7 teams making the playoffs, both conferences, I think if you get to 10-7, I think you're going to the playoffs. But for the Colts and Dolphins, that would mean they both have to win 4 straight games to finish the year.
13th is the Houston Texans.
They had a bye, so not much to say about them other than they're still in a really good place right now in the AFC South at 8-5. I mean, they still have a 2-game lead on the Colts.
12th, Washington Commanders.
Another team that had a bye. We had 6 byes. It's the last week of the byes, by the way. So there will be no more byes moving forward. But the Commanders find themselves in a really good spot for the last wild card spot. They're a game up on the Rams, but they got to keep winning because these other teams are going to start breathing down their neck.
11th is the Denver Broncos.
Broncos have a 2-game cushion right now for the final wild card spot. You know, that makes honestly that the fact that the Chiefs have already clinched the AFC West, that makes it even more impressive, Jack, when you consider that right now the Broncos and Chargers are both in playoff position 8-5, yet the Chiefs have already clinched the division.
10th, Los Angeles Chargers. What are you thinking about the Chargers there?
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, no, that's not the right one. That's the Packers. It's just the Chargers are go, Chargers, go, or San Diego Superchargers, San Diego Chargers. So I think the Chargers, valiant effort. They need to have a healthy Ladd McConkey, healthy J.K. Dobbins, and if they have those 2 things, they're good enough to win a playoff game.
9th, Seattle Seahawks.
Man, they've won a bunch in a row. I think they haven't lost since the bye. They've won 4 in a row. They were 4-5. Now they're 8-5. Give a tremendous amount of credit to their head coach, Mike McDonald. Watching their game against the Cardinals, they're playing physical and tough up front, both sides of the ball. And Geno Smith is good. It's kind of wild that McDonald's former team, the Ravens, and his current team both have 8-5 records. You know, if McDonald was still on the Ravens, they'd be better than 8-5. I can tell you that much right now.
Speaking of them, they're 8 Baltimore Ravens.
Right, they had a bye. Not much to say about them other than that was obviously a very tough loss against the Eagles. It's kind of wild to me. The Ravens feel like they've got a much better record than 8-5. It doesn't feel like the Ravens have the same record as like the Chargers, the Broncos, the Texans, and yet here we are, and they're going to have a tough time winning that division against the 10-3 Steelers. So Ravens looking like they're going to have to make a run as a wild card.
7th is the Green Bay Packers.
They're the one where you go, dun, 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 dun. Go, Pack, go. So they lost. I guess I dropped them. I didn't drop them at all. Even though they lost the Lions, that was not drop-worthy in my mind. The Packers have a good football team. It didn't go their way against my number 1 ranked team, but I still think the Packers are good enough. That probably eliminates them from winning the division, but I think they're good enough, kind of like they're like the Ravens of the NFC, and that they are good enough to make a playoff run as a wild card, winning 3 playoff games in a row.
6th is Steelers.
Huge game for them against the Eagles on Sunday. The battle for the Keystone State. Obviously, that's a huge deal in Pennsylvania, and a huge deal for the Steelers for playoff positioning and trying to hold the Ravens off in the AFC North.
Fifth is the Minnesota Vikings.
The Minnesota Vikings, super impressive what they have done this year. I am now believing that they are a legitimate Super Bowl contender with the way Darnold and them have been playing the last couple weeks. But that's a tough road if you have to win 3 road playoff games. That's a very, very tough road. I don't know if they're ready for that or they're that good.
Fourth is the Buffalo Bills.
I only dropped the Bills 1 spot. I thought about putting them behind the Vikings or behind the Steelers, but you know my deal. Like, what do I think would happen if these teams played against each other on a neutral site in my backyard in a best of 5 or best of 7? The truth is, I'm still taking Josh Allen and the Bills over Sam Darnold or Russell Wilson. And I think that's why. I just think Josh Allen was unbelievable in that game.
Third is Chiefs.
Moved them up 1 spot ahead of the Bills after that Bills loss. Bills defense was concerning. Chiefs, they weren't all that impressive. They just win. I'm going to write about them this week in my column for the 33rd team.
Second is the Philadelphia Eagles.
Not a great game for them, and now they got off the field distractions and comments from Brandon Graham that they're going to have to sort through over the next couple of days, see what that means.
And first, Detroit Lions.
Super impressed with them. I don't even know what else to say at this point. To have all those injuries, to lose Aleem McNeil during the Packers game, they still find a way to win. They have earned the number 1 spot in my power rankings. Check out Even Money in College Draft. I think we're done here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com. It is by far, absolutely by far, the best holiday gift I'm aware of. Can't highly recommend it enough. Get a loved one, especially a parent or a grandparent, the gift that keeps on giving. It's a professionally written story all about them and how special they are. It's incredible. And I'll send you an autograph if you do it. BackOfficeScheduler.com, HumanNetNYC.com, Sporticulture, Pizza Boy Brewing.